What's that? Hi guys, I'm back, and today I'm going solo. Karen somehow had some other plans, but she'll be here next week because we've been off 2 weeks. Welcome to the show. Anything that I say is not meant to diagnose or cure you. It's just meant to give you some helpful hints and things to focus on researching. Check with your doctor before taking any of my recommendations. Looks like we have a little glitch, but we're good because we do have both Facebook and YouTube together. I can see the comments coming in from both areas. So we're just going to, people on YouTube might have a difficult time hearing me, and it looks like I have a standing light on my head there. But I'll just repeat the questions that come in. Let's see here. There's a couple questions from, I'm just going to jump right in here. Assi Norrison had a question. Left upper mid-back pain, what is that and where's that coming from? Left upper mid-back pain, that usually is related to digestion, and it could be related to more pancreas digestion, because when you eat, especially if you're eating cooked foods or foods that require a lot of enzymes, it could strain the pancreas, and then that can overwork and refer pain to the left shoulder or the mid-back. Sometimes it could be the stomach, especially if you're not on the right track. So I would, again, go right back to the combination of healthy keto and intermittent fasting, especially intermittent fasting, to see if that could help you so you don't overload the digestive system. If you're eating too much fat, that can do it as well. Okay, Para Lumen had a question on Facebook. How do you sleep faster? I tell you, all I have to say is I put my head down, bam, I go right out probably within 2 seconds. I'm up real early, like at 4 in the morning. This morning it was weird. I woke up at, I thought it was 4, but it was actually 2, and I'm like, what the heck? I went right back to bed. The days that I don't go for a walk are the days that I have, I might not get the best sleep. So I think the best thing to sleep faster is to either have your window open so you actually get more oxygen, have some plants involved so you have more oxygen from the plants in your room, and do stretching. Also go for the long walk each day because that's going to extract stress. Also, you can take a sleep aid. There's a good one that I have on my website. I usually take that before I go to bed. Not too much anymore, but probably for the first couple years I've taken that, and then I don't really need it anymore. So something that'll help you get to bed quick. You don't want something like melatonin that is becoming addictive. So you can take something like adaptogens for the adrenal, things to calm the adrenals down. There's a great thing there's a video I did on the stress webinar. If you watch that, Dr. Berg's stress webinar, I show you how to do acupressure, and that usually will help in the extraction of stress. Okay, so I'm going to catch some of these questions coming through here. Please. Well, no, it has value. When you buy, okay, the question was yeast, nutritional yeast. Is it bad if you get the synthetic version? What happens, they both come in natural versions, but they actually sometimes enrich it or fortify it with synthetic B vitamins so they can spike the numbers. It's not, I don't think it's going to create a problem with nutrients, but when you start taking synthetic vitamins, your urine's going to be bright like orange or yellow because your body's getting rid of them. They're okay very short term, but they're not actually as healthy as the food-based ones, simply because they are made from chemicals, like even petroleum. That's how they make B vitamins. They're very cheap, so I like the nutritional yeast without the fortification. Now, the only fortification that I do with my nutritional yeast that I have in a pill is I add, it's not adding any synthetics, I'm adding a food-based natural B12, because one thing about nutritional yeast is it doesn't come with the B12. That is the problem. So that's the only only thing that I add to it. Everything else is food-based. It's much better to get your vitamins, even if it's lower amounts from natural sources, than high-potency synthetic things that are from petroleum. So let's go right to Chris from California. Are you there, Chris? Hi, how are you? Oh, good question. Okay, so for people on YouTube, the question was, it's a known fact that the way they make viruses, they actually add egg whites to feed the virus. Does that mean that if I eat egg whites, am I feeding the viruses? The answer is no. It's the same thing. It's a very similar question to if cancer lives on sugar and the amino acid glutamine, does that mean if I'm consuming glutamine, for example, glutamate, which is an amino acid, does that mean it's going to feed the cancer? Here's the thing. It really has to do with if you have cancer, then you would want to not have glutamine. But glutamine is a natural amino acid that is really good for everything. So if you don't have cancer, it's not going to harm, it's not going to make you get cancer at all. Cancer comes from a damaged DNA or mitochondria. But with your question, no, eating egg whites will not feed the viruses. Realize this, that viruses, they mainly can only affect you when they get in the cell. Okay, so they go in there, their goal is to get in the cell. Our job is to prevent them from getting in the cell. And if you have a strong immune system, they're not going in. If you have a weak immune system, they'll go in. And once that virus goes in the cell, then it can start reproducing. Our immune system can't see it. So once it shreds or basically comes out in massive numbers, it breaks the cell, and now it leaves traces where our immune cells, they're called the B cells, start to produce antibodies, and we start developing antibodies against it. And then the next time you get that infection, it's ready for you to neutralize that virus. But no, I would not worry about that, because if you don't have an infection, if your resistance is low, adding an egg or not is not going to increase or decrease your susceptibility. The main thing is if you're stressed, if you're eating sugar, if you're low in vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, then you're going to be more susceptible. I've done a lot of videos on that, but yeah, I would not worry about that, Chris. All right.
Okay, from Facebook, I hope I'm saying the name right, Rennie, R-I-N-I, asking, what do you recommend for hiatal?
Okay, for those people on YouTube, someone had a question, what do you do for hiatal hernia? I'm going to do another video on this, but it's a very, very, very simple thing to do. You basically do acupressure underneath your left and right rib cage close to the midline, and you press in there very gently or moderately for about 2 minutes to the right side, 2 minutes to the left side. What you're doing is you're pushing back in the soft tissue that's kind of lax, and you basically will kind of push the stomach back into where it should be, and it's going to give you a lot of relief. Then what you want to do is you want to start adding more hydrochloric acid to acidify the food and strengthen the collagen so you don't have a weakness in that area. I will do a video on the technique. Very beneficial, very easy. When you press your hands up underneath the rib cage and you stretch back, you create this huge space that allows your digestive system to not be stressed with this hernia situation. All right, so Denise, you are calling. You had a question. Are you there? Hi, Denise. Great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, you should send it to me because when you actually read these articles, doesn't always mean what they're telling you. I will want you to send it to me, but really AGEs, and for those of you that are on YouTube that missed that question, she's asking about AGEs and coming from grass-fed meats and vegetables and things like that. AGEs stand for Advanced Glycated End Products. If you think about this, if you combine protein with sugar or glucose together, it will form these kind of like alteration in the proteins. So they alter the protein. Same thing happens if your blood sugar is high, let's say you're diabetic, and it goes right, it connects with the heme in your hemoglobin in your blood, and that's what high A1C is. It's a indicator of how high your blood sugar is because it alters, it creates a glycation in your hemoglobin. But I would absolutely, positively not worry about your AGEs coming from meat and vegetables because you're gonna, if you do a comparison with the amount that will be created versus adding, like consuming, I don't know, like ice cream, where you have the protein in the casein, which is the casein in the milk products, and all the sugar, you talk about generating AGEs and sticky blood and problems. And every other type of mixture that you have, which occurs when you go to a restaurant, like you get a McDonald's hamburger or a Burger King, whatever, and you had a fries and Coke, and you mix the sugar with the protein, you're gonna be creating these damaged proteins that are gonna make your blood get messed up. It's gonna go to your brain, create Alzheimer's, all sorts, I mean, potentially lead to Alzheimer's, because when you look at these chronic inflammatory conditions, they're loaded with AGEs. So by going low carb, you bulletproof yourself because you're not adding all the glucose in there. Now, how do you prevent this from happening? What you do is you consume a large amount of greens to actually offset some of that. Also, you do fasting, intermittent fasting, because guess what fasting does? It clears out damaged proteins. So by getting rid of those damaged proteins, you're gonna actually be fine. This is why fasting is really important for people with like heart disease, Alzheimer's, people with that had a heart attack, and you do that and you start cleaning up these old proteins, you start countering the effects of AGEs. But definitely send this to us at drberg@drberg.com. Thanks, Denise.
Dr. Berg, how about one from Facebook again? And this is an interesting one. For Hannah, wants to know if consuming raw salad safe during the pandemic with women work that perhaps they have some cancer.
Yeah, I think the odds of you, okay, so for YouTube, is consuming vegetables safe because of this pandemic, because of the contamination to the vegetables? Honestly, you're not gonna have to worry about that. I should probably do a video about some background on that, but no, in fact, consuming vegetables will increase your resistance to viruses because there's a lot of nutrients in there, including folic acid and vitamin C and other things. So, because what happens if you don't consume vegetables, you're going to not have, you're gonna lower your resistance. If you start eating like everything cooked and sterilized, you really kill off your immune system. Like even in the Spanish flu and the pandemic, which 15 million people died in 1918, what happened, you had this global war and you had all this transportation of the food going from vegetable, raw, things like that in the garden, to everything preserved and canned. Well, that made things worse. It made people more susceptible. But no, you don't have to worry about it. There's been no cases of outbreaks having it being on vegetables. I would not worry about that at all. Okay, good. So now let's go to Charmin from Florida. You had a question? Go ahead. Hi. Yeah, okay. So for you, for those of you on YouTube, the question was, what's the shortest amount of time that you can do fasting to really get some benefits from autophagy? It's really, the magic number is right around 18 hours. It could be like 17, 19, but on average it's about 18 hours of fasting. That means you have a 6-hour window. So if you eat at 12 and then at 6 o'clock, and then you fast for 18 hours, that's when you start seeing some good changes. And of course, if you go more, you'll see more benefit. But yeah, it's about 18 hours. Also, if you add exercise and you sleep better, that's another benefit to that as well. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, if you want to call in, guys, if you're on YouTube, if you want to call in, the number is 866-561-4292. Okay, give me a call. I do want to talk about this recent study on hydroxychloroquine. There is definitely a push to invalidate that drug. That's all I'm going to say about that. That a lot of doctors are using as a preventative right now in hospitals, and a lot of people are getting a lot of success from it. There's some mixed reviews and things like that, but there was a recent study that's been pushed around all over in the media right now that hydroxychloroquine now has found to increase your mortality, okay, increase your death rate, and it doesn't work, okay? So before you jump to conclusions, you want to see that study, and I'm going to do a video today on it, but I'm just going to tell you right now what the study actually says. The study was what's called a retrospective study, okay? What does that mean? It means that it was a study that was gathering information of events that occurred in the past, okay? And with those types of studies, there's a lot of flaws, okay? Because they're basically looking at charts and things like that, and that's what they did. They looked at charts and information and data in a VA hospital, which I actually used to work at. And so what they did is they evaluated 3 groups of people who took hydroxychloroquine by itself, people that took hydroxychloroquine and erythromycin, okay? Actually, I don't know if it was erythromycin. It was basically a type of antibiotic, okay? And then they evaluated the last group that had no hydroxychloroquine, okay? And what they concluded was this, that the group that did not take hydroxychloroquine had less deaths, okay, than the group that had it. So right there, you know the media is going to jump on that and start saying, oh, I see, I told you so, and this whole thing. Well, let me just, if you actually read the study and you dig into the data, what you're going to find is this. There's all of these people from very, very serious to very, very mild cases coming into the VA hospital. And if you're somewhat healthy, and let's say you have some symptoms, and you go into the VA hospital and get tested, chances are they're not going to actually prescribe hydroxychloroquine. Why? Because you haven't really become very severe, because they're only giving to people that are severe. And so what they're omitting in the study and really kind of emphasizing is that, well, they mentioned it a little bit at the end, that the group that did not take it were the healthy group. Okay, they're a healthy group. So if you're evaluating a healthy group versus a group that's very unhealthy with all these other pre-existing problems, obesity, diabetes, regardless of what you take, your risk are you're going to have more deaths in this group over here. So the bottom line is that it's kind of a bogus study, because you really have to do an objective study that's randomized, controlled clinical trials, and you can't just, this is not even peer reviewed yet. It's not even published yet. And of course, the media is having a field day from it. So again, don't put a lot of weight into the study at all. Anyway, so let's see. Let's go to, I'm going to go to YouTube. All right, so Arnold said, hey doc, what is more infectious, a dry cough or a cough with phlegm? What's your reason of those 2 coughs? Someone from the Philippines. Now, I'm not a medical doctor. I can't give you that data. I would imagine it really depends on other variables, because here's the thing that I really want to bring up about that, is that as soon as someone gets a fever, or they start getting a cough, or they start getting symptoms, they start taking aspirin, or they start taking acetaminophen, and you start taking things to mitigate the symptoms, thinking that's going to help your immune system. your immune system, if it runs into a virus, is going to react to it and actually kill it. You have an army sitting back there that's highly trained and ready to take on just about anything if your immune system is strong. So I would let your body run through its course to a certain extent, especially if there's a fever or even a cough or even if there's mucus or not mucus. The fever, by getting rid of the fever too fast, you're actually increasing the duration of an infection, you're weakening your immune system, and you're not letting the immune system do its thing, because guess what? When you actually, your body's creating a fever to decrease the replication of the virus. Heat actually tends to slow down the virus replication. So that's all I want to say for that. And that's about it on that one. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so on Facebook, someone had a question. I am doing keto, intermittent fasting. I only lost a certain amount of weight. What can I do to speed it up? I really have never had that question before, Steve, so it's a real tough one, and I'm being very sarcastic because I always get that question every single time. There's a great video that I did on it called Are You Plateaued with Keto and Intermittent Fasting? You should look it up, but there's a whole series of things. The first thing you want to look at is, am I eating too many carbs? Second thing, am I fasting long enough? You want to adjust those two and keep that insulin low. Next thing you want to do is you want to get more sleep. Okay, very, very important. Next thing is reduce your stress. Stop watching so much of the news. Go exercise. Start walking more every day. That's going to reduce the stress, help you sleep. Also, you want to make sure that you take certain nutrients, especially the B vitamins and minerals and potassium, which actually speeds things up as well. These are just several things that I would recommend that I normally see most people are not doing. All right, let's see here. All right, so now we have, do you recommend keto for a young, healthy person? No, only if you're older and you have a lot of health problems. Okay, next question. I'm being sarcastic. Yes, you want to do keto, regardless of how young, healthy you are, because there's a lot of benefits that go beyond weight loss and actually will protect you against things down the road. Okay. Okay, another question for someone that, how can I build muscle? Well, you're going to have to do this thing called, exercise. Yeah, you want to do a lot of exercise, increase more volume, more compound resistance using your whole body. And then you do want to make sure you have enough, of course, amino acids as raw material, which is, you know, you don't have to go overboard, but at least I would say 6 to 7, 8 ounces per meal. Okay. And then intermittent fasting, maybe twice, eat twice a day, but do intermittent fasting, which actually preserves your muscle. And get a lot of sleep, because all these things will stimulate growth hormone. These are things that get nullified if you are, like for example, people have this idea that I'm going to build muscle with sugar, right? Because it's an anabolic hormone. Yeah, but it's going to make fatty muscle, and that's not what you want. So I would not try to get your muscle from eating carbs. Oh, lower the camera, please. Yeah, it's hard to hold this and kind of juggle. Let's go to Brooke from Phoenix. Go ahead, Brooke. Hi, good morning. You lost 310 pounds? That's amazing. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So let me repeat your question to Facebook, okay? So for those of you that are on Facebook, and these lights are terrible, by the way, on this camera right here. Brooke had a question. She's from Phoenix. She wanted to know. She lost over 300 pounds. She handled many different issues with insulin resistance and other conditions, and now she still has some estrogen dominance. She wants to know how to deal with that, how to speed it up. Does it normally take that long? So, Brooke, just one question. How much more weight do you have to lose, if any? Okay, okay. Just found out how to do this here. All right, so here's what I would do, Brooke, and just from people on YouTube, she still has some weight to lose, and so, but she actually gained a lot of muscle, so that's awesome. So, Brooke, here's the thing about estrogen dominance. How old are you? 42, okay. As you get close to menopause, I'm not saying you're there yet, what happens is that some of that estrogen is produced by your own fat. And that's probably what you're dealing with, is the fat actually is making some of the estrogen. And I do not think it's coming from the ovaries. So one of the things now you're left with, how do I deal with that? I would absolutely positively start consuming foods that are a bit anti-estrogenic and that will help you balance out the estrogen, the good and bad. And that would be, of course, something called DIM. I would take a good amount of it, which is a concentrated form of cruciferous vegetable. I would consume cruciferous vegetables and start working on your liver a little bit more, because it could take a bit of time. The more you support your liver, the more you're gonna be able to regulate estrogen a lot better. That's probably what you're dealing with now. You just lost a ton of weight. All that fat had to go through your liver, so now is the chance to start beefing up your strength of your liver, no pun intended. So you can do that with a lot of cruciferous, and you can also do it with milk thistle, and dandelion greens are a good one as well. Thanks, Brooke, and I can't wait to see that success story. Yeah, so Steve just said that people from all over the world are listening in, and despite the coronavirus, they're still interested in keto intermittent fasting, so that's really cool. Listen, clarify, Doctor, please clarify, okay, tips for type 1 diabetes. Done quite of research, still have a question, confusion. Some more videos. Yeah. Okay. So the question about type 1 diabetes, this is an autoimmune condition. Okay. There's some interesting things about autoimmune conditions, especially diabetes type 1. If you actually look at where people live in relationship to the latitude and the equator and in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere, you're going to find way more cases of autoimmune cases and diabetes type 1 in the northern hemisphere, okay? Because of the link between vitamin D. Vitamin D is probably the most important thing in supporting parts of your immune system that deal with differentiating good cells and bad cells, because what goes wrong in your immune system is that it starts attacking the wrong thing, like a mistake, right? Well, there's certain cells, specifically the T cell regulatory cell, and that cell will it's supposed to prevent autoimmune diseases, okay? But if it goes bad, or it becomes weak because the person's deficient in vitamin D, ding, 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 then you can start developing an autoimmune. I think you also have to have some gut issue and maybe a virus involved. So taking a good amount of vitamin D would be something that I would recommend for type 1 diabetes. But you still want to do the exact same diet as type 2, because even though you don't have any insulin anymore, you still want to eat as if so you don't actually overproduce insulin. So you just want to, if you can eat less in your carbs to have less of your medication, that's going to be better long term for you health-wise, because just as high sugar is bad, so is high insulin. And people don't realize that. If you don't have any information on that, you can just look up hyperinsulinemia and cardiovascular disease and stroke and a fatty liver, and the list goes on and on. You'll get a lot of great data. Okay, Erica from Toronto has a question. Go ahead, Erica. Good morning. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Vitamin what? D, okay. Okay. So let me repeat this question, Erica, for Facebook, okay? So Erica lost 65 pounds, I think 55 pounds since November 1st. So that's awesome. But since Good Friday, she's now getting dizzy. She has some tension headaches. She went to the doctor. They didn't find anything too wrong other than low vitamin D, and they also find she's anemic. She's high, but she has high amounts of B12. So quick question, Erica. Did you actually go off the program during Good Friday or not? Did you make those yourself, or did you buy them at a restaurant? Or, okay. All right. So Erica, the only thing that was different with Erica is that she had some lemon chicken type meal that she got from some other place. Here's the thing. When I look at a thing right here where she's having all this success and all of a sudden she's having symptoms, there's something that a lot of, especially doctors, don't look at. It's like they don't dig into what occurred just before this happened and really emphasize and dig and pull the string and try to figure out, because people don't just all of a sudden have symptoms with no reason, right? That chicken that she ate, that's what I would evaluate. I don't know how many times that I would have like a similar thing, and then I would reflect back and go, oh, that's right, I went to the restaurant. There could have been something in there, who knows what, that created a reaction in your body, either inflammatory reaction, and it's lasting 2 weeks, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. I really think it boils down to that food that you ate. So what you probably should do is go on a 3-day fast, if you could do it, or a 2-day fast, to clear out the system and then like reset. I think that's what I would do. I wouldn't go digging too far or any other thing, because especially if it's headache, it's really food related. Who knows what they did to that chicken, or what spices or what chemicals, especially if it was at a restaurant. It's happened to me so many times where I'm just like, oh, I feel like really funky after this food. So that's what I would do. Do you want to go on a fast? Also, you can take bentonite clay as a way to kind of absorb any type of toxic whatever. Thanks, Erica. Okay, on YouTube, there's a question on Facebook. Someone wanted to know, is it okay if I consume pineapple and mango? And the answer is no. Not if you're doing keto and IF, because that's like really gonna increase the blood sugar, so I wouldn't do it. The fruit that you can do, some amount, is berries. Okay, someone wanna know, how can you cure fibromyalgia? I love making claims about curing things, and I'm being very sarcastic. I can't cure anything. But to get your body to heal itself, especially if it's fibromyalgia, I would watch my video on that, because usually fibromyalgia, and don't ask, well, I know why, but if you ask someone, where do you have it, it's usually on the right side of the body. Why is that? Because the gallbladder and liver are on that side, and that can actually refer pain to the right side. So what you can do is you can start to pay attention to your gallbladder, start eating things to support the gallbladder, and what really kills off the gallbladder is the refined carbs and sugars. So it's not necessarily the fat unless you're doing sugar and fat. Like I remember in college, Steve, I got a recipe from my grandmother for this meatloaf. And of course, I knew nothing about nutrition. And I didn't read the whole thing, I scanned it. I don't know if you ever do that, Steve. You ever scan things and don't really read the details, especially instructions? So I missed that little point where you had to drain the grease from the 1 pound of hamburger in a whole loaf of bread as I was making this and putting the ketchup. So anyway, gosh, you know, I ate the whole thing in one sitting late at night. So I'm up at 2 with this serious pain in my stomach, going very surprised. Where is this coming from? So that was coming from the amount of grease from a hamburger combined with the bread, combined with the ketchup. And I actually get up and go to a drugstore to try to find some medication. That's how unaware I was. So anyway, to make a long story short, you may not have the bile in your enough. You might not be able to. You're not used to, especially when you're starting keto, to handle a lot of fat. So you might want to go into it slowly until your body builds up more bile salts. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Kimchi, is it okay? Oh, that's awesome. Kimchi is like really good for you. Does women breastfeeding contain sugar? Isn't it appropriate for keto? Yeah, breast milk contains the milk sugar lactose. And even though you're actually feeding your baby lactose, that doesn't seem to affect ketosis. And what's interesting, it's a type of sugar that, especially if you're an infant or even before, when you're as a fetus, you're actually in ketosis. So it actually promotes ketosis, surprisingly. So no, I would not worry about that sugar in breast milk. In fact, I would recommend try to breastfeed as long as possible. But I'm not talking until they are 16 years old. I'm talking about a few years. Okay, it's going to be very, very healthy, especially for the immune system. Yeah, my gallbladder formula is gluten-free. In fact, none of the products I have any gluten in them at all. Even the wheatgrass powder, juice powder, because the gluten happens in the seed that develops with a very tall, fully grown wheat plant. But as baby sprouts, you don't get the seed that develops, so there's no gluten in there at all. All right, let's go to Joseph from Australia. Are you there? Hi, what question do you have? Okay, good question. So Joseph wanted to know, how long does it take to reach starvation mode when you're doing a prolonged fast? There's a difference between fasting and starvation, okay? And starvation usually sets in when you run out of your fat, okay? When you don't have any, if you're really, really thin, you probably shouldn't be doing prolonged fasting very long. Okay, I'm talking like, over 2 weeks, just because your body is living off this fat, and if you don't have any fat, then that's going to be a problem. And then guess what? Your body goes after the organ. So that question really depends on how much fat you have in your body. The longest fast was like over a year, okay? Like I think it was just over a year. And the difference also in symptoms, starving versus fasting, is when you're doing fasting, you're feeling good, you're strong. That's healthy fasting. When you're starving, you're feeling bad. You're feeling weak, poor immune system, you're hungry. So that's a good way to tell as well. But it's a judgment call on how much fat you have on your body. But very good question. Thanks, Joseph. All right, so how is Steve holding up? Okay, so Steve is holding up great. He contracted the coronavirus, and he actually got a situation where he's able to take the hydroxychloroquine, and it seemed to help. Of course, I know it's probably a combination of that with his healthy eating plan that we put him on, but he actually is fully recovered, got checked out, he's good to go. He's sitting right over there, and he's not dead yet. No side effects. Great. So Steve just said, for those of you on YouTube, he took the round of hydroxychloroquine, did great, minimal symptoms. He basically also said that his doctor was recommending it and said that it's been around for 45 years or more, and very few side effects. And the thing is that what it does, it's a ionophore, which means it allows zinc to travel in the cell and help to disrupt the reproduction of the virus. But it also does more than that. It helps as a preventative for people. And again, I'm not recommending taking it unless your doctor recommends it to you. But what I find interesting, Steve, is there's a huge push to wait. Well, here's the thing, to do these studies, it's gonna take months and months and months. What do we do in the meantime? So there's a lot of doctors taking it as preventative, and there's also, I mean, entire states are taking it now. And so honestly, you gotta weigh out the advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, and then stay tuned for some more videos on that. Okay, good. So let's see here. All right, someone from, let's see, I think it's Pam from Fort Worth, Texas, have been having some lower back pain. What causes it? Well, probably all the sitting that you're doing quarantined, but what you could do for low back pain is you want to stretch your hamstrings really, really good and your quadriceps. And that is probably the best thing you can do right now for low back pain. I've done a lot of videos on it, but it's usually tight hamstrings, especially if you're sitting all day long. Okay, so we want to go to Kathy from Kentucky. Kathy, you had a question about your blood sugars, right? Sure. So question I have, Kathy, is do you feel okay? Okay, so here's the thing. I have a video, but it's very hard to find it, but I'm gonna tell you what's going on there. So for those of you on YouTube, Kathy from Kentucky had a question, and she said that, listen, everything's going great, lost weight, been doing clean keto for a while, early January, and but my blood sugars are too low. They're in the low 60s, okay? Is that a problem? I said, did you feel okay? And she goes, yes. Well, here's what happens, Kathy. When you're not consuming carbs, your body is gonna not, it's gonna run on fat fuel, right? Ketones and fatty acids. And so the need for that sugar is not gonna be there. So there's gonna be less sugar in your blood. I've had people come to even see me with, and even the doctors sent them in to see me to tweak some things with various problems. And I noticed that, that when they get on keto and intermittent fasting, their blood sugars, the new normal is low, in the low 60s, sometimes the high 50s. And what's happening, your body's just adapting to less sugar. No, I would not start eating more carbs. I would just ride the wave. You're doing fine. It's working, and this is your normal, especially if you feel good. If you feel funky and weak, then that's a problem. But no, I don't think you have hypoglycemia. It's just a new normal of low blood sugar because you're running off of other fuel. Thanks, Kathy. All right, so let's see here. Can you do intermittent fasted daily? I suggest you do it daily. Okay, what about, Dr. Berg, what about bioavailable copper for coronavirus? Well, zinc is good, but zinc always, you need copper too. Copper is very important with the immune system. I recommend as a supportive measure to take not just zinc and copper, but in a blend of all the trace minerals. And I have a lot of information that you can check out on my website. Okay, another question is, what is the way to tackle high uric acid while doing keto? What you want to do is you want to get your pH normalized. Usually it's going to be like a 5, which is pretty acidic, and you want to bring up to maybe a 6, 6.5. And to do that, you want to consume things that are alkaline, like more vegetables would help. You can even take like potassium citrate or even magnesium citrate to help change your pH just slightly to decrease the severity of the uric acid crystals, or yeah. So because it's really a pH issue and a weakness within the kidney. All right, let's see, we have so many questions. I wish I can get to all these. I am gonna be doing a webinar coming up on understanding the immune system. I'm gonna make it really cool. You guys are gonna like this, but to be able to explain the immune system, which is very complex, in a very short period of time, it takes a tremendous amount of understanding of every part and every player in the immune system. So I've been going over this topic, probably I've done over 300 hours of getting every textbook. Like one of the best textbooks that I found 2. And Steve, you can't just buy these textbooks at the bookstore. You have to order them, special order them, and they're very expensive. Like the textbooks that I want are related to the combination of using nutrition, physiology on the immune system, and they're technical books, and even the Kindles, you can rent them for $50, but to buy them, they're like $130. So I bit the bullet, I buy all these books and I study them. Talk about a wealth of information. I was just about this close to doing the webinar, but then I got the book and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I waited because I have some additional things. There's really 7 main players in the immune system that I'm going to cover, and I'm going to help you understand it in a simple way, because once you understand the immune system, this is your army. You'll know what to feed it, you know what to do about it. It's going to be very, very healthy. Yeah. Okay. Would you recommend fasting over 24 hours when you're still not hungry? Yeah, I would. If you have extra weight to lose, I would ride the wave for maybe even 2 days, maybe even 3. If you feel okay, ride the wave. Just take your nutrients as well. Hey, April, you're from Florida. You had a question. Go ahead. Hi. Okay, great. April, I'm glad you called. Let me just repeat your question to the Facebook group. Okay, so April from Florida, she had a question. She has a leaky heart and leaky valve in her heart. She wants to know, is it okay to do keto with that? And usually she's talking about the valves are not closing, okay? And so you're getting this leak, which is a murmur. And one of the best things that you can actually even, I've done a video on this, you can look up the research on it. Just look under murmurs and B vitamin research, okay? You're gonna find a lot of data that there's certain B vitamins, especially vitamin B1, that's intimately involved in the tone of your heart, okay? The tone of the heart. When the tone of the heart is kind of lax or loose, it dilates a little bit, enlarges a little bit, like a muscle, and then the valves don't close right. So one of the most important things to do is to get off diets that cause B vitamin deficiencies, as in high carbohydrate diets, as in diets high in sugar, high carb diets. So what is the opposite of that? It's keto and intermittent fasting, probably one of the best things you can do right now to support a healthy heart and to support healthy valves. That's what I would do if I were you. I would jump on it. It's not harmful. The few studies that you may run into that keto is dangerous to the heart, these studies are always done on rats, okay? And if you look at what they feed the rats, what's called the keto or low carb diet, or they don't even say they don't even call it keto. They don't even call it low carb. They call it high fat diet, okay? High fat versus normal fat. Because they have a confusion, some of these researchers, on what a keto diet is. And what you're gonna find, if you find out what the high fat diet is, there's no definition. And you're gonna find that's actually a high amount of carbs with that high amount of fat. And they're calling that a keto diet? Come on. So I would totally do it, 100%. I would definitely, I think you're gonna like that. Okay, so for Facebook, someone from Dubai asked, are my products available in Dubai yet? No, but we're actively and aggressively going into the UK, which then can ship to Dubai very easily. So we're gonna need probably a few months and we'll be there. So yes, we're going there, but it takes a bit of work to kind of go through all the different hurdles. Okay, Dr. Berg, what is your brand of whole food multivitamin minerals? I don't have like a multivitamin mineral per se, but I would recommend my wheatgrass juice formula because that's the one that has a lot of different factors, phytonutrients, a lot of different vitamins, and also the keto energy, which is also called the mitochondria energy, is a really good one, multi-everything, but it's nutrition for your cells, so that's a really good one as well. All right. You guys have great questions. I really appreciate all your questions. I have to kind of select these strategically because there's so many. Let's go to Janan from Michigan. Are you there? Sure. Yeah. Okay, so let me just repeat your question. Okay, for YouTube, a mother from Michigan called about her son. He has juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and so he's just started doing fasting, and I think he's doing keto with some carbs, which is awesome. That's what you want to do. I think this is an autoimmune condition where you have antibodies going on to your body. So there's definitely a gut issue involved. So you need to get support the gut primarily with a very high quality probiotic. Also high quality vegetables if you'll eat it, because there's a great data on even rheumatoid arthritis in general that if you increase the potassium, now for an adult that would be 6,000 milligrams, you'll actually see tremendous benefits with rheumatoid arthritis. So you have fasting, you have keto, strict keto, also colostrum, which will help heal the gut as well, and with a good probiotic. Also zinc is vital with that, and then just increasing your potassium. And colloidal silver is another really good remedy for that. Those things are the things I would do, and then give it some more time. And I think that the combination of those will be very beneficial to support him. Hey, Vicky. Oh, you're welcome. Hey, Vicky, you're from Arizona. You had a question, because I think you're facing surgery, but you can't because of the virus. Tell me about what's going on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Here's my response to that, Vicky. So let me just repeat it to YouTube. So Vicky from Arizona, she's facing surgery. She has a keloid in her tongue, and she wants to do it, but they want to, and then they have to put food in through a feeding tube for I think 2 days afterwards, and of course they're going to feed her glucose, and of course that's not something she wants to do. So here's my suggestion, and that is. There's plenty of doctors out there that'll probably work with you to maybe put some other types of food into your body. Maybe there's you can do it through a syringe with just blended foods. But I agree, it's like that glucose is not a great alternative. I do know even people in my family that had surgery where they couldn't eat anything for a period of time, and they used a small tube to feed themselves. So I think you'll be able to find someone. Worst case scenario, you just do a 2-day fast. That's not an issue. But that's what I would do, because fasting actually can support your healing. Good question, though. That's great, Steve. Thank you very much. For those of you on YouTube, let me just tell you what he said. He wanted to thank me for the success of educating him. He's done very well. His diet is near perfect. It's not 100%, but that set him up for success, because most of the actual numbers for the deaths are, with people with pre-existing problems, because it all comes down to the immune system. And I just want to let you guys know I have some very, very interesting videos that I'll be releasing in the next few days, so stay tuned. I do want to release one that talks about the actual numbers. This virus is not as deadly as they say, and it's not by me, it's by real credible people who are doing the math, because they're doing antibody tests now in places all over the world, and they're showing that many, many more people are infected than they thought by a factor of 10x. So if you factor in the amount of people that were infected divided by the number of people who died, it's called infection fatality rate, which is just your mortality rate or death rate. They're finding that that is no longer like a 4%. It's like a 0.15 or 1.3, 0.5%. It's very similar to the flu. So I'll be releasing that video. And what does that mean? It means it's not as deadly as they said, as the flu. It's not like a lot more deadly than the flu. And the problem with, not having those statistics correctly stated, the media jumps in there and they will go haywire and they start freaking people out and you'll be scared. And then they can change all sorts of policies and things that really fast. So always push for correct statistics and data before people exaggerate and overestimate or underestimate anything. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll talk to you next week live. See ya.